He's just joined the team. He was originally an investor, but luckily he thought we were cool enough to also become operational. I'm the CEO, but I co-founded the company with an AI scientist, and most of our team is actually, almost all of them, with the exception of the two of us, are computer scientists. We're about 14, 15 people now. I always say I'm entirely inadequate for the job, but luckily nobody else wants to do it, so that's why I'm sitting here in front of you. Yeah. In short, the idea was born out of a recognition that the 3D content pipeline is still awkward, slow, and expensive. And I think if we can provide a contribution towards making it faster, less expensive, and quite frankly just more user-friendly, then I think that might be business.
So you're doing the same thing for capturing somebody's body as like 6D.ai is doing for grabbing them by the world. Right? So it might be interesting if you guys end up working together. You know, they grab the couch.
I've heard a lot about them. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And then you're going to capture the human and like gestures in there and train new things.
So I'll explain where we are today, and perhaps where we're going to be in the next year or two if we do our job right. And one of the ideas that we have for today's meeting, if you guys agree, was to actually sort of not tell you everything that. We'll tell you what our vision is. Mm-hmm. I suspect there are things that we're missing. There are things in the big picture that we're missing out on. Most importantly, also, we know that we have a bunch of skills in a bunch of areas, but we are probably not very deep in any one of those. So we're not experts in any one domain expertise. I am not personally.
Yeah.
The two non-technical guys, I often feel, and let's just see how public this is going to become, we all often feel that we need a lot of help.
If you become a billionaire, very public. You'll look back at it and go, man, were we dorky or what? I have a few of those videos.
I'll take it. High class outcome. So for example, Anand actually, as we were talking about getting into this meeting, mentioned a great point, and that is we've never thought deeply enough about what the user experience is going to be in AR.
Yeah.
We turn it on to make sure that people know that we can do it. Yeah. I think probably like a bunch of people are doing. That's presumably why a bunch of people are implementing AR or an AR ready or compatible type solution. We did it practically for the same reason. We just wanted the industry to know that we are AR ready. But I think the time has come where we are going to move. We want to drive more engagement.
Yeah.
And one of the ideas that Anand had, when I thought that was great, was perhaps to provoke you into reaction. See, I think maybe you have an idea, maybe not, as to how this could be progressed.
Irene and I study the spatial computing world, and there's
a
lot of companies. We met with Artie, that's making a virtual being, right? That's sort of here, but it's very incomplete, very early. It's good enough for a phone for 20 seconds to capture a little video with yourself and it. You know, they're building things for the movie industry, so they built a Spider-Man and other things that are coming out this summer.
It's called Artie.
Artie.
And what do they do? Sorry.
Virtual being or synthetic character, right?
And how do they animate the character?
It's using some of the AR cloud kind of techniques of knowing a little bit about the world around you. It stands here, right? So I can see it standing here, right? But it's really...
Doesn't animate the body from within?
It does, but it's on a script. It doesn't...
That's what... So maybe that could be collaboration.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we can move it around in real time.
Yeah.
At least that's the idea later this year. I'm just going to show you what we have here. This is our desktop app. The desktop app is purely a visualizer. Okay. That means it's not that doesn't run the AI. It also does not allow you to record a video and upload it into the cloud where the AI currently runs. This is a beta we released in September of 2018. The moment we released it, we stopped developing it and started working on Gen 3. This is Gen 2. So I'm just going to try and make it somewhat obvious what we're doing. So what you see here is a 2D video. that a user has uploaded. Conventional 2D video recorded with a conventional consumer-grade camera. In fact, this was procured from YouTube, so we don't even know how it was recorded.
Yeah.
Our AI detects and reconstructs the motion of that person in full 3D and outputs fully rigged skeletal data that you can then use to put any character on it.
Wow.
So these are just some of the photorealistic.
So you started with a 2D video. You figured out where the body parts are, or the AI or whatever
Exactly.
system you built. Figured out where the body parts are, and it's watching on that.
Exactly.
Very, very awesome.
Thank you very much.
There's no dots. Like, there's no dots.
No, this is not. We didn't
It's
record
not
the
even
video.
real. It's off of a YouTube video.
Yeah.
It's not real life. It's not animal.
Now,
We can also show you like one of the
So imagine,
Like, congratulations.
think about
Thank
what
you.
you guys are building and what's happening with these 360 cameras. These are going to be on phones 2-3 years
Exactly.
from now, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to be able to grab you out of the air like this in a 360 video or on glasses, and anything you do, I'm
By the way,
going
if you want
to
grab
be
it,
able
play
to
around.
build a virtual thing that does the same thing.
Okay, so there's those like tracking apps that if you move around your face like that, it'll rebuild like some sort of mesh like that. But
We
you can
tried
just
any of
hold it
these.
straight now.
Yeah.
Not only that, how much computer power did it take to do this?
This
is on an
so
iPhone.
This is Gen 2. This was actually this video was recorded on an iPhone.
But
the AI does not run locally device side yet. It still runs in the cloud on this one does, Gen 2 does. It runs on fairly very large NVIDIA GPUs, P100s. You can turn.
Yeah, where's the music?
So if you click, if you highlight the
Here,
menu.
yeah. I want to play with your machine.
They have a large user base.
No,
Great.
so dance. All right. So I just interviewed a AI student at Stanford who is a former dancer who's using choreography of dance to teach robots. She would use your thing to do a dance or to think through a movement of a robot. Teach the AI how to do that.
I would have to think about this for just a moment, which way the learning would actually go. We might learn from her,
Yeah.
or she might learn from us, or maybe it goes both ways. So our AI is composed of a bunch of disciplines. They're fairly standard convolutional training methods in there, where we are limited by the data that we put in there. But we also have a generative approach to what we do. Most importantly, in the next version of AI that you'll see out there, Gen 3, what we've actually done, we've built a latent space that embodies or that represents human motion in full 3D. Mm-hmm. Right? But I emphasize the word that you probably didn't pay attention to. Most people don't. It's motion. It's the latent space represents human motion in 3 dimensions. And then it can take very noisy, imperfect data signal, such as from a 2D camera, from an RGB, and map that very noisy, very imperfect, very sparse data to that motion model in 3D, and then generate this out of it, or something much better than this, hopefully, because this is Gen 2, which is a public beta. Now, to answer your question, I hope I can. One of the ways in which we are training our motion model is to make the model understand that the human skeleton is effectively a control system. That's a key word in robotics, right? The human skeleton is nothing other than a control system. To understand where motion comes from, how rotations work, what drives what. Do you drive something forward, or do you invert power and velocity, and so on and so forth? So I suspect that a lot of the terminology we use to train our neural networks of internal ABC, so to speak, might be somewhat familiar to her, if not largely identical. Right? So if she comes out of the robotic space, then she'll think about control
She's
systems
working
all the
on
time.
autonomous cars, robots, and AR.
Well, if she think so, Dan.
But she's a freshman student at Stanford. She has 6 years ahead of her.
But you
right?
you mentioning her, and she's at Stanford, so I'm
She's
pretty sure
really
she's going to be a
brilliant,
rock star.
and
Exactly.
she's a former dancer, right? So she understands how humans move, and she's trying to teach AIs how to move.
I'm wondering
in
where
that
you
world.
think some of the holes are that you're missing.
So I mean, one of the things we wanted to talk
Yeah.
about was AR, right?
Yeah.
So here, this is actually a girl that works here at BetaWorks,
Yeah.
and this is her. I just filming her, and that video was took 3 or 4 minutes to come back from the cloud. Gen 3 will be like 20 seconds back from the cloud. That the latency is like completely vanished.
All right. So how much work is done locally, and how much work is done on the cloud?
At the moment, absolutely everything is done in the cloud. I think Gen 3 hopefully is just a few days or weeks away. But once Gen 3 is released, it's first released into the cloud.
And give me the basics of what it's doing when it uploads a frame of video to the cloud. What is
what
your
you guys
system
understand.
doing? It's trying to find what? What did you train it to do to see in that video?
So it uses a combination of off-the-shelf commoditized neural networks that produce the sparse signal, which is a 2D signal. It looks at the skeletal information. That's not invented by us. We don't claim that it is. It's highly commoditized. But what we do with that sparse information is our secret. That's what we pride ourselves in. That's our innovation. So the initial signal that we extract from a video, which is the very first step, is just skeletal joint information on a two-dimensional matrix. So an an X and Y axis matrix, and that's all we see initially. What we've then developed is the AI behind it that takes that very sparse information and converts into 3D motion. Does that?
Yeah, I'm just
answer the
trying
question?
to. I just wanted to see
How
where.
long did it take for you to build that?
About a year to get to this point.
Yeah.
And that was just a beta, just a public beta to hopefully show off to the world that we're capable of delivering something that is absolutely unique, and we'd like to think that we're ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
Now, of course, it takes a lot to remain ahead of the curve. I think there are a lot of very, very talented people working on some elements of what we're doing.
Yeah.
But we're the only ones I'd like to think that are focused on delivering a solution that is usable by the 3D content pipeline industry, which means that we are actually developing this as a tool that allows you to extract the data that the AI produces in the form of a skeletal rig. But that's a download. That information. Okay, I'm going to test account right now. But that information comes as a downloadable file that it can be used as an FBX, which we made. Okay, so a lot of people in the 3D industry actually know that term.
Yeah.
Others don't. But it's an FBX is immediately usable in Unity, Autodesk, Unreal, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So we want that data to be
So
immediately
a
transferable.
VR developer could use this technique in a few minutes. You'll get a file back to drag into Unity to start animating a virtual character or whatever.
That's exactly the right question, and that's exactly where we're taking it right now. So this was developed knowing that we would have to just still work in post only, right? So this 10-second video takes 3 minutes to process.
Now a developer like that today probably has an NVIDIA 1080 card under their desk, right? Can you do that locally, or does it need to be?
That's a P100 or V100 right now.
Yeah.
But the P100, V100 will deliver 10 seconds and about 15 seconds on day one that we delivered into the cloud. So it's about a 20x improvement that we'll get out of Gen 3. We think, and this is potentially maybe the single most important thing I can say today, is that we hope to be able to deliver this in real time on-prem, which means supported by relatively strong GPUs like this one, although of course these are not NVIDIA GPUs. I think once you get over to the Windows and PC side, you'll see much stronger GPUs there.
Yeah.
We think that 1080 should deliver real time on-prem within 6 months, maybe within 3 months. We've just done some testing. That would be at 20 to 30 frames per second. We're aiming for 30 at a very minimum to really get you good performance within 3 to 6 months.
How about
We
with
also
an
think we
Oculus
can get it
Quest
mobile.
kind of thing?
My understanding is the GPUs are fantastic on all of those.
Because that'll be, a lot of people will be getting Quests and wanting to capture like her dancing
exactly.
in VR and then grabbing her and bringing her into environments like a Unity or whatnot.
So I don't want to forget your question. I want to answer that very quickly. So
Yeah.
what I want to answer, but there's a lot of.
We both have different.
No, that's exactly the problem. And so we
She
come
comes
out
at
of-
it from the finance
We come out of the
direction.
technical space. What we're really we're keen on getting better at is making this a more enjoyable experience for users that we didn't expect would even be interested in this.
Yeah.
When we launched this for independent professionals, computer graphics professionals.
Yeah.
The 18-year-old kid in a Wisconsin basement living with his mother, all the way up to the single A's, double A's. Maybe not the Disneys and the Blizzards of the world, but certainly anyone in between who I actually think are going to drive the 3D economy in the future.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the Disney stuff. They can't produce enough content. I like that. It's really fascinating. I think we need all those kids that today use Adobe and so on and so forth for
The
2D.
non-bureaucratic.
Sorry, I'm not bureaucratic
Yeah.
either. I'm not going to issue a public opinion on this, but my point is, I do think that there are 25 million independent computer graphics enthusiasts / professionals out there today.
Yes.
And I think that number will grow to 50 million or so in the next few years, and they need a much better pipeline. We can't solve all of it. I think other companies are perfectly positioned to do it, like Unity at the top for us.
Yeah.
But I think Unreal's doing a fantastic job. Obviously, I think Autodesk might go in the same direction as well at some point.
I also think Blender is coming.
Blender
is doing.
we love
The
Blender.
advances in Blender have been insane. They just
Yeah.
released a video to coincide with their 2.8 release of something produced completely within Blender, and it looks as good, if not better, than things you see coming out.
Big
of
shout out
CGI.
to Spring.
Yeah.
That's what
Big
it's called.
Spring. Watch
Spring.
Spring.
There's a whole,
on
I mean, that's
Blender.
why Marcel is here. There's a whole bunch of people who are creative and are trying to come up with new ways to communicate on Instagram and other places, right? And soon we're going to have more new devices that are going to make us very hungry for this kind of
But still want to answer your question.
Yeah.
So, we did not expect that as part of this launch, we would get any interest outside the professional or quasi or semi-professional segment. And yet, about 30-40% of our users, it turns out, probably are not that. They're probably using it just for fun. They're consumers all around the world, especially Asia, Latin America, the Middle East, countries like Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, completely unexpected. And I think there's a trend towards self-virtualization. I don't think we're giving them what they want. I want to be absolutely clear. I'm not saying that for them right now. We're not fast enough. We don't give the gratification that people seek. We're not giving them enough to play with. This is just a prototype.
Yeah, it's a start.
But
yeah.
I think we have a opportunity here,
So-
especially with the AR side. We were hoping that perhaps you have a reaction to that. How can we gamify this to make this more
see
entertaining?
you going in a non-technical direction,
Exactly.
a social direction,
Exactly.
a gifty direction. It's upstairs, right?
We're in the right spot to talk about that.
Right.
And
What do you mean by that exactly?
I'm watching my 9-year-old kid, and he watches memes all night long. And he's getting very advanced on that, and he's starting to want to make his own. This is going to let us act out scenes, doing things,
yeah.
and share them with other people, and entertain each other.
So
And
we-
then there's a whole bunch of other things like coming that are going to let us play games.
It's making me think that in addition to human beings, you would then need to have a little bit of a different library of other objects.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is just an empty space that
Yeah.
we created, right?
Yeah. So even with the objects that you have, you'd be able to then change those objects in a way dress them up like you would.
Remix.
Yeah,
Or as my son says, Dad, we need more inventory. We need more inventory of things to dance.
That's a Unity app, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, what our
So
what
you
our
can hook it
long-term
up.
vision is like you can populate that with environments, different characters, animate different characters. Like you can have your own content studio
Yeah.
on Radical and never have to leave.
So that's the beauty of it, right? So we actually are very quite seriously thinking about building this on top of, say, Unity.
Yeah.
And there's just giving people access, and maybe Sketchfab as well. Maybe have a partnership with them if they're willing to do that, and to basically give people access to all these amazing models that have been built out there,
Yeah.
and to make them available for people to use, and then also give them.
We were just at
assets.
USC and met with Sugar, who's a student there just graduating in a month. And he has an animation tool that doesn't work on the humans, but works on everything else, physical things, right? So I could make this animate through space, right? A virtual thing, right? You have the human equation, you add it with his equation, and you add it with Sketchfab. Now you have something really interesting, right? A new kind of creativity environment that lets people create
I like that a lot, actually.
right? All sorts of stuff. I mean, this kind of work, you go to Coachella. Have you ever been to Coachella?
I have not.
You're sitting in the Sahara tent. There's 100 LED screens, literally all over, right? All around 10,000 people in this thing now, 30,000 people dancing, right? The entertainment that's up on those screens is going to be created by things like this.
So we're also going to we are going to build the amazing artists in the space. One of my favorites, and he's a rather well-known rock star in the Unity space, is a Japanese digital designer, and he's much more than a designer. So I should be careful about this. I'm not doing him justice.
Artist.
Goro?
Kijiro.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kishiro.
And so luckily we've already.
Goro's another one.
He's given us permission to use his special effects in our app. So that means you're going to get these insane particle-based swarm effects. Where the characters dissolve as they move around, and the visualizations are responsive to velocity and energy. So it's sort of physics-based.
Marcel, are you getting excited over there?
We're getting into the
You're talking Marcelo's language. You should be like.
Join us, Fahim.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fahim was our man here at BetaWorks. The guy brought us in.
No, this is really cool stuff. I can see a whole bunch of business model questions you're going to have, which I know Irina's itching to ask
Did
for.
I didn't properly answer your question, did I?
Well, my question's really big, so it's
A big funnel at the top.
there's a lot of directions you could go in.
So
That's what we're. Your question to her was a 68-page report that will come back to you telling you what is the likelihood you're going to have a business in this new space. And we're all ripping apart the markets because you're building new things and you need new ways to explain it to investors and to understand it yourself. Which path should you go? Because you're going to have 20 paths to go down.
And this is actually one of just figure a bit of shout out to BetaWorks. I'm not saying that because they're listening.
No, they're
I
brilliant
genuinely
here.
mean this. No, they're actually keeping a very open mind on that front. We came in really wanting to solve a problem for professional or semi-professional, what we call the individual contributors.
Yeah.
Right? Independent professionals. Independent content creators is actually what we settled on, because I think that captures the sentiment of most of these people. They're game development,
That's what they call
film,
themselves.
TV, commercials, with a lot of creative agencies, and the app developers. That I think covers sort of the largest segments of our target audience. At least that's what we always felt we wanted to do. Now, getting that right from a business perspective, not just so much is it the right tool for them and so on and so forth, but delivering them exactly what they need at the right time, the right kind of pricing model is a fine balance.
Yeah.
There is a case to be made that we just built the right thing for the right people, for millions and millions of people and just make it a highly engaging platform, right? Maybe with more social aspects, give them access to more characters, make it less about the workflow.
Right.
Right now we have a strong bias toward the former, right? Just to be clear, because we come out of that space, they come out of the enterprise space, and I just see the most hunger in the 3D content industry.
I mean, we just saw
evolution.
We just saw 11 million people watch Marshmallow in Fortnite, right?
Yeah.
And he was giving a performance live, but there was lots of other things that were going on in that space that could have been captured by a dancer or a performer or us, all of us, right? We all want to do interesting performances. That's why you go to Coachella, because we all want to dance. It's not just the DJ on the stage.
So I've had a vision for a bunch of apps that I could see myself using. I think many others. Once we have the real-time home application, so this runs on your desktop or laptop, pretty sort of consumer-grade gaming computer. Will the trick? What are they around $1,000 these days? For
Yeah.
We'll be able to deliver
nice
an
one's
on-prem
$1,500.
real-time version. That then you take the content of what you have and you stream it into a live virtual environment where people can collaborate.
Yeah.
The very first version I had in mind, because people like to do dancing. Like, I don't know what it is, but almost all of the consumers that get engaged here, they dance.
Yeah.
We have teenagers in Pakistan dancing on our app, right? And so the idea will be that they can stream their virtual representation into a space where they actually are social, right?
Yeah.
And there's a dance floor. For
By
example.
the end of 2021, we're wearing glasses that have 8K screens in front of us.
Right.
Virtualized screens. And sensors that are going to sense 4 cameras probably. Magic Leap has 4 cameras. HoloLens has 4 cameras that can see everything in 3D. Don't I want to create in one of those tools?
So here's
Don't I want to watch things in that? And then he's going to...
We do have.
But just one more minute.
But just 1
The
second.
thing that I just always want to highlight, and that's so incredibly important to understand, we reconstruct the world in full 3D, even though we see very little. What I can actually do going forward with our technology is I film you from the front, but I can give you a camera view of your own virtual representation that can look at you
360.
at 360 while you would do it.
Yeah.
So I can be dancing on the table here while I'm moving around.
And you can
And
tell the
then you
camera,
can
show
spin
me
around.
myself
You
Yeah.
can spin around
from all
yeah.
angles, even though it's a single camera
AI
pointing at you.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's great.
So you can, for the first time, experience your own journey through some world, whether it's a virtual world or something, probably a virtual world of some sort, maybe a mixed reality.
Not only that,
And you can look at yourself experiencing it.
we're capturing this with a 360 camera, right? Why can't this live stream to your servers? Why can't it capture all of our motion in real time and put a virtualization of you in the cloud in my glasses? Why are you in 3 years? Why aren't you doing this remotely?
Clearly, this might be the
But
problem
why
that
aren't
must
you
be fixed.
sitting there remotely in my glasses? Because I'm sitting in front of a 3D camera, and you're sitting with a little camera like this, and you're sitting in front of a little camera like this, and your software is
Well, I
grabbing
have a
this in
vision
real
for your
time.
product that's a little further down the line. Just give me
look at
1
it?
minute.
I can give you as much time as
Yeah.
you want. I just want to make sure that
Yeah.
there's 2 other teams.
Yeah.
that
I
really
know.
This will
wanna-
take
I
less than a
know.
minute.
Sorry, we were just getting
So,
with that.
basically, I see this as a product. Okay, consumers can use it, but I'm not thinking of it as a consumer product right now. I'm seeing it as a development tool by Hollywood studios, who will be, once the visuals become more refined and more true to life, which is going to take a few more years, you could actually have an actor or actress that you have in a database. You have a real person who's doing everything, and then you could have that masked so that the actor or actress is now the person in the movie or the visual. And I know companies that are working on something similar, not to that full extent, but that's the vision for the future. So that the actor or actress doesn't have to do the acting anymore. They're just using her visuals or his visuals and to have the entertainment sell, right? So the vision of the future we got from Artie, who we met, they know it's going to take about 5 years before there's some kind of like really true to life movement and look and feel to the artificial character or the synthetic character.
I do have a response, but I'm not sure how much time I'm given.
Yeah,
I
so
don't think it's 5 years for us.
Yeah.
I think it's about a year for us.
Well, that would be great.
So
It's very useful.
the thing I just wanted to put in there very quickly.
Yeah.
Our motion model, which is the latent space that contains the information to represent virtual human motion,
Yeah.
only contains beautiful, plausible human motion.
Yeah.
It does not know anything else.
Got it.
This is
This is
Or something.
I can help connect.
Yeah, okay, good. After, to get all the names.
where do people?
You
By the
too.
way, where do people learn more about you guys? What's your public
Were you
website?
shaking your head?
GetRad.co.
GetRad.co.
Okay.
We've heard that we ought to change that, and we will.
GetRad.co.
Yeah, but we call Radical, and the app is called Motion by Radical, or Radical Motion.
All the apps.